English parents, and Grandpa Fred was half Ojibwe and half French. Although my grandfather was a fluent Ojibwe speaker, he spoke only English to his kids, reserving his conversations in Ojibwemoan for other adults. Growing up, my sister and our close cousins were taught just a few words and silly phrases, as that was all our parents remembered. Our Aunt Doreen Drouillard Voce, who used to run the Happy Fisherman restaurant in Colville, around 9 miles up the shore from Grand Marais, loved to tell us stories about the old days and some of her memories of Chippewa City. She encouraged us to be proud of our family heritage and of who we are. So I suppose that's where our family's place in this story began, with Aunt Doreen. She knew what it felt like to grow up poor, to work very hard, and to sometimes walk down paths that seemed to go somewhere, only to be met with a dead end. But Aunt Doreen was never afraid to bushwhack her way through the woods, and her brave spirit continues to inspire me to keep exploring our family history and the places that we come from. Trying in vain to locate the old road and the cliff where Jim and his grandmother might have sat side by side, eating their carefully packed sandwiches, I'm struck by the relationship between the physical place that used to be and my own identity as an Ojibwe descendant of Chippewa City. What so many of the people I interviewed longed for, what I long for, is the ability to return to the place where our ancestors lived and be welcomed there as part of the living, breathing story of the people who call it home. Chippewa City as a village was as culturally rich as it was economically poor. If you live in Minnesota, you will recognize many notables with Chippewa City roots. The modern artist George Morrison was born and raised there, and so was Ruth Myers, a woman known as Minnesota's grandmother of Indian education. John Beargrease, the legendary mail carrier and namesake of the annual sled dog race between Duluth and Grand Portage, also lived there for periods of time with his family. After John died in 1910 in Beaver Bay, his wife, Louise Wishcup, moved back to Chippewa City where her family was from. She was taken by influenza in 1918 and is buried in the cemetery at Chippewa City. Her remains share a common grave along with the remains of her son Peter and brother-in-law George. My great-grandmother, Elizabeth Anaquat Drouillard, is also buried there, as is my great-grandfather, John Drouillard. I have returned to the place where they are buried many times, never knowing the exact location of their graves. Our family's remains, like so many other ancestral graves that were once marked with wooden crosses, spirit houses, or stone markers, have been lost to memory. So where does history begin when so much of what came before remains a mystery? On each of my trips back to Chippewa City, I've tried to find the answer to that question. Does it begin with a gravesite, or with the first written evidence that your ancestor existed? Does it begin with a specific memory or a point on a map? Does it require written or scientific evidence to be true? My cousin, the poet and writer Bob Swanson, helped answer some of the questions about reconnecting with our family history in Chippewa City by illuminating the cultural significance of stories within Anishinaabe culture. He shared this with me in one of our many email exchanges while connecting the dots between the Drouillard and Anaquat family ancestors that we share in common. Bob wrote, "In the Anishinaabe tradition, a story or legend is considered both animate and inanimate. It is a single item, but it is also something that lives, and in living, not only remains, but changes. The story changes as people bring forth old remnants and put them in place to create a new story. That story, Bima Dizi Adezu Khan, lives and continues to grow, but only the people can determine if the story is remembered." I find great comfort in knowing that everything changes, because this means that we all have the opportunity